Hello, everyone. I thought it'd be a good idea today to talk about something that we've all experienced, or most of us anyway, and reminisce a little bit on the jobs that have shaped our lives. Now, I have done so many jobs in my life, and I'll share a couple of those because some were truly remarkable. But I know that I've asked the community about this in the past, and there were so many funny and very interesting and curious employment opportunities that people followed up. And I think they shaped us. This kind of got started in my mind the other day when I was out walking, and I saw this young guy sweeping leaves and into a pile, and I thought to myself, good job. I mean, he's trying something for probably his first job, and he's actually doing something that he'll remember as being like totally boring and really not exciting at all when he's whatever, a lawyer, doctor, friend, scientist, astronaut, whatever he turns out to be. I remember my first job, it was sweeping those leaves in Bar, Switzerland. And, just get your feedback on this, because I think that there's some really fun jobs that we probably all had similar experience with as women, now women over 60, 70, 80 plus. That we can just have a giggle with this, because I just find it very interesting, all the stuff I've done in my life. First job we shared, probably everybody who's here over 60, was babysitting. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Remember, like the time I remember I was babysitting and the parents didn't come home, like that night. And they came home the next morning, and I had to get my mom to come over and sit with me because I was, kind of nervous that where were they? I think we even might have called the police. I don't remember. Anyway, babysitting. A lot of people were car hops. Do you remember when they had oh my gosh, what were they called? I can't think of it now, the name of it now, where they used to go, put A&W root beer, where you'd pull up in your car and then you'd order the drink, and this person would come out on, roller skates sometimes and deliver your drink or your food. A lot of people did that. And this is, I think, maybe more United States and Canada than anywhere else, because I don't think that's a European phenomenon. I was raised in England and United States, Canada. So that's kind of my work experience really got going when I was in Canada. So soda hops, waitressing, everybody was I was a waitress. I didn't actually mind being a waitress. I was young, it didn't bother me. I was pretty balanced. I could carry things, but waitressing, and you got to wear a uniform, I remember. I had one, was it black or something? I had like lace around the apron or something. I mean, my memory is like fuzzy, but it was so funny that I was a waitress. I was also, my very first job as a teenager was working in a pizzeria. I worked in Dino's Pizzeria. I was going to high school, and it was like a part-time thing, and I just was the cashier, and I used to be always fascinated by them making the pizzas. It was an Italian man that owned this shop, and he was so good at it. But yeah, waitressing, working in food services. Volunteering, I want to mention my second job in high school was as these are paid jobs, by the way. Well, this one in high school was work study, and I was managing, this is so funny, I was managing a country club for a website, for a radio station. It was called WEXL in Detroit, Michigan. It is in Hazel Park. And I was the person that managed the country club, which is so ironic because here I am, that was a community of a couple of hundred, and here I am, a couple of 100,000. And it was just, it was one of my second job. I know I was a typist, which is the next one at various stages in various jobs. I worked at the BBC, and I was in the newsroom, and I did a lot of typing. We had Olivetti typewriters, no computers. This is like 81, 82, something like that. Yeah, no computers. It was just, it was typing manually for the news. And I used to work with the reporters. They'd come up to us and dictate a story, and we would type it. And you did not want to get the breaking news story at 2 minutes to 9 when the news started. But that was a fun job. And many probably of you have done that kind of typing secretarial work as a beginning job. And then I did actually move I did like part-time. We worked 3 days on, 3 days off at the BBC. So on my off days, I would work in secretarial jobs. I remember the first time I ever used a fax machine. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I'm sending this message to Japan by putting the paper on the, what? Remember those? Anyway, so that was kind of the beginning jobs, right? Those are my beginning jobs too. And I think that then as we, got through high school, and I mean, I'm jumping ahead and backwards and forwards, but when, those were the jobs in the early days. But then in high school and even in college, we were encouraged to do helping jobs. Do you remember that? I know when I met with a counselor, she said, well, Margaret, you could be a teacher, a nurse, do social work. It was, that was just the kinds of things, because I guess of the, the experience I've had already, that was it. Those were the caring jobs that we were given. And a lot of people still are in those wonderful jobs. And in fact, in our community, when we do our chats, like on 60andMe, people will say, oh, I'm social work. I work with disabled kids. I work with special needs kids, or I'm a teacher. And that's it, 50 years of work in those careers. So I don't know how many of you were teachers. I'd be very interested to know. I bet we have a few. But those roles were driven by social stereotypes. They were driven by stereotypes of what women did in those days. We didn't do engineering and computing. Well, there wasn't even computers at that time. So there were those stable kind of giving, caring careers. Then there were unusual jobs that people did. Well, I mean, being an airline stewardess, or a flight attendant now they call them, so stewardess, that was a really unusual one. Being a switchboard operator, I did that on one of my jobs. Where you had the call came in and then you put the plug. Do you remember you had those wires? Like this call's going to Joe, this one's going to Fred, Mary. Joe. It's crazy. And the wires are all over the place, and you put them in a tray. And am I remembering this right? Anyway, a lot of you did department store work. I've done department store work many times. I've worked in women's fashion. I've worked in all kinds of, in the shopping malls. I think just my whole history of jobs was basically whatever was available in the new town I went to. I think I've mentioned this many times, that we moved almost every year of my life. And it was just crazy that I had to keep juggling around different jobs. But those surprising in jobs, like even an Avon lady. I did Mary Kay for a bit when I lived in Texas. But then there was factory work, of course, where people worked in factories, automobile industry when I lived in Detroit. I didn't do any of that. I did work for Sears Roebuck. That was a fun job. That was during the riots in Detroit. Wow, that was in '66. I'm jumping around my history, but I was on the customer service line. Oh my God. I remember that so well. I was taking calls from people who had problems with their equipment they had bought at Sears. So people would call and say, hi there, I've got, this washing machine that's not working. I've got 3 children under 3, and I just need someone today. And you'd say, well, we can book you in next Wednesday. And it was like explosion. And I remember saying, we had this big book that you could, when someone said something, you could go to the script and reply to it by reading the notes. This is on the phone and or headset. And you say, I'm sorry, but I'm not trained to take that kind of verbal abuse. Would you like to speak to my supervisor? Oh Lord, that was fun. Anywho, so jobs like factory work and packing and people did sewing, worked in factories where there was sewing responsibilities. Lots and lots of crazy jobs. Did you do any of those? I'm so excited to read the answers to this video. Then there's jobs that gave us independence. Those summer jobs. I mean, the whole theme of when you're younger is you're buying for a purpose, for the prom dress, for the the travel, for the that pride of earning your own money. I just think that was such a great thing when you were younger. But I don't know, I look back at all the jobs that I've done. I mean, I didn't even tell you what jobs I did after I got into the world. I mean, I worked at computing companies. My very first computer job was in 82, 80, something like that. I worked at W.H. Smith Computer Centers in Crawley, Sussex in England, and I sold my first computer. I got to tell this story because this is so funny. I sold my first computer when IBM made the IBM XT with 10 megabyte hard drive. Yes, you heard me, 10 megabyte. You can't even find a picture that's 10 megabytes or a video. But yeah, so I did that. I worked for Computer Center, which is another company selling computers. And then I worked at Microsoft. That was a 20-year journey. Lots of fun. Many great memories. Microsoft peeps that might be watching. Love you guys. Or anyone in technology. It was a great time to be in technology. It's even fun now. I mean, I love using technology, but Microsoft was a big job for me. And then Siemens, I worked on a website, social media project that led me really then to 60andMe, self-employed. But so many jobs, and I hope it's been interesting just hearing someone else's stories, but I look back on with honor at the jobs I did. I honor the investments I made in jobs that were, I got fired once from a job actually, yeah. I don't know why, but you know, I remember the experiences, the losses, the bumps, the customers, the uniforms, all the things. And I just wondered if you look back at your jobs with the same nostalgia and wonder and joy and gratitude. I'm happy for everything I did. There's not one single job that I did that I would say was not appropriate or that I didn't have some level of either real good fun or, here's Blanca, I've got a fan blowing on me here because it's so warm. You know, that I liked every job. I learned something every place. What about you? Share your job experiences. I can't wait to hear them. Okay, everyone, please take care. If you like the video, please like it for me. Do a comment. Please leave a comment on this one because I want to read lots of your stories. And check out our Patreon group if you're interested in chatting with us on a personal level. We do live shows, travel together, all kinds of really cool stuff. Patreon.com/60andme. And also, you know, check our other channels. We have a fabulous website. We're on Instagram, 60andme official. We're on Facebook and, of course, TikTok. Where else are we? We're everywhere. And YouTube here. So thank you for being here. Thanks for your support and sending you lots and lots of love. Take care.